Following video discusses this house, which was built in 1906, and this photograph shows it about 2 years later. Alright, so this house is my mother's house, and I lived here for a number of years, 10 years, and of course I've been working on it since then too, but primarily when my mother and I lived here, I worked on it quite a lot. One of the last things I did before I left to get a real job was this roof. So go ahead and get closer under the tree. And this roof was had 3 layers of shingles on it and cedar shakes. We tore it all off and sheeted it. I had scaffolding all the way around so that you know, for safety, and also for you know, to make it easier. Let's go around. There's a skylight. You don't have to look at me, but there's a skylight over on this side. Well, we'll see it in the attic. But I had a friend that had that skylight, and I went ahead and he gave it to me, and I went ahead and installed it. All right, so now at this point, let's look at that tree over there. I planted that tree. It was very just tiny when I planted it. And then let's walk in and we'll go up to the attic. I'm going to start at the top and go down. Actually, we don't have to. Alright, so this attic, when I got this house, it was actually my dad's rental property. And it was a duplex. And then my mother got it. And I put this sheet on here, and this was when I first realized that dust could make me sick. I had an allergy. This is extremely dusty underneath the sheet, and I used to do work because there's electrical under here. But and then me and my friend put this on, and we were laughing while we were doing it because it was so lame. But I know all these years it's been here, and this is ceiling tiles that I got off a job for free because I was doing handyman work at the time. And here's the skylight that I put in, that I probably shouldn't have, but I guess it's all right. And then this pipe here is insulated for the dryer, which a lot of times they just use a thin wall, single wall pipe. This is a gas dryer, and it's an insulated double wall pipe. And then these 3 are vents that this one's over the range, and one of them's over the fridge. I'll show you downstairs. And that one goes all the way down to the bathroom downstairs. Because I like to get the stuff out, although technically you're supposed to do it outdoors, but this works pretty well. So now, and then I put that light in. What's this for? Oh, this was the fan. So I used to have an exhaust fan up here, which helped a great deal when it would, if you needed to work up here or do something and it was hot. You could turn that on and it would get the air out. But after a while, squirrels made a nest in it, and it became a problem. So I took the motor out, and it's just covered up, although it's still a hole in the roof. Which could. Alright, so now let's go down to the 2nd floor. You ready?
Yes.
So this is the door to the attic, and it's an insulated door. Because this is Iowa, so it gets cold. So, and this is the way we bought. I didn't do this. This is the way we bought the house. Big, thick insulated door. Interesting. So it's closed most of the time. At one time I had an air conditioner in this window. We have central air now, but I had a powerful air conditioner in this window. It was 220, and it would just freeze you out up here. A window unit. So now this floor, at one time, I made the carpet. I didn't do this carpet, but at one time when I was living with my mother, we didn't have much money. I found a piece of carpet, and I installed it here, and it wasn't even big enough, and I sewed the edges of it. Because I had seen back in the old days they used to sew carpeting, and I had seen that, and I sewed the edges together where it wasn't big enough. And after I did that, and it was already used carpeting, After I did that, I said, never again to use my valuable time installing something used like that. And that was just a lesson learned. Now, in this living room here, funny story about this living room. Well, here's two stories. This house was plumbed for gas lighting. So this little bump right here is where there was a gas light. It's a pipe. It's actually a pipe that's still sticking out. And there's another one over here. So this house was built in
1904.
Yes. So a funny thing about this wall, I painted this wall. I had 2 gallons of paint. It's got a kind of a sand texture. This is an old-fashioned thing they used to do. I had 2 gallons of paint, and they were the right color, so I mixed them together. And I painted this room, and everything was wonderful. And I went to clean up my paintbrush, and I thought it was a water-based paint. And I started cleaning my paintbrush with water, and it wouldn't clean properly. And what had happened was I had mixed 1 gallon of water-based and 1 gallon of oil-based paint. And you know, I stirred it up real good, painted on there, it worked. You might say if that doesn't work, it worked. I put in this, where's that return? What's that? I guess that's the heat. I put it, no, that might be a return. I don't remember that. Because here's where the heat used to come up.
That was covered up by the couch. Probably should cut that part out.
No, that's all right.
Well,
so this one here is the normal heat from the old days. It used to have a coal furnace. Well, now it's central air. But I put in, because this is a, you know, second floor is hard to cool. Right here, I put in a return. So this house has central air. So it used to have a coal furnace, but so I figured for central air, and this is the second floor, I need a return near the ceiling to pull away the warm air. And so I put this in. This goes all the way to the furnace down in the basement. And but my air conditioner man, he said it wasn't going to help me, and it should be a supply. So I tried it both ways, and then the fact he was right. You would think it would, intuitively you would think this would be really valuable to pull the warm air out and take it down to the furnace. But the fact is it really doesn't help you, and so it's a supply. This bedroom, I didn't do this carpeting, it's beautiful carpeting. I didn't do a heck of a lot in this bedroom, just paint it and stuff. And this tends to have the old, most of the wood's been painted, but this has some of the original wood. This was just pine. Here's the return, typical looking for a coal furnace type of a, not return, a supply for warm air. And then in this bathroom, I did quite a bit of work in this bathroom. And I remember I was putting this, I put this paneling in, and then I was putting this wallpaper in, and I called my mother and I says, Mom, she was at work, and I says, I don't know if this is going to work with this wallpaper and this paneling. Does it match? And she said, I think it'll be all right. And really, it's been fine. It's kind of peculiar, but it's been here a lot of years. So some of this other stuff, let's look over here. Why don't you stand over there by the bathtub? So this here used to be a chimney. This was a chimney for the furnace, for the coal furnace. It wasn't a big chimney like you have for a fireplace. It was right here. But it was brick. And it was, of course, covered by a plaster wall. So I took it out, and now you have shelves here. And I never quite trimmed it up really beautiful, but it's good enough. It's good enough. Oh, there's one other thing about this. There's an exhaust fan in here, but you have to go in here to turn it on. Okay, so that's it for the bathroom, I think. Now, Jan? So this is the kitchen. This was a duplex, so this was a second floor kitchen, second floor apartment. But I've completely redone it since then. And it never had a dishwasher. I crammed in a dishwasher, full-size range. It's really, and then the double sink thing. There's not a lot of space in this kitchen. I painted these cabinet doors. These were brown. And then put in this drop ceiling and these fluorescent lights. And then I've got a exhaust here because in the summer, you know, this refrigerator puts off kind of a lot of heat. And so that'll carry that heat off into the attic. And it runs continuous. I just plug it in up there, it runs continuous. I guess that's all for the kitchen. You might look under here.
Because I like to do good, nice plumbing. Get under there close. Good, solid plumbing, and a trap for each bowl. And there's your garbage disposal.
Okay.
You're good.
Another thing I'll mention that notice the wall phone, and really, I don't know that we ever used this wall phone very much. I thought it was cool, and it even has the rotary, which kids nowadays don't even know how to use it. But and it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for years, but it's still kind of cool, isn't it? And then this is the pantry, which is pretty good. I've seen new houses don't have a pantry worth a darn. Okay, that's good.
Go.
So I redid this stairway. I'm actually going to have to come down to really talk about it. But no, wait, we're going to have to wait till they're done.
Go.
Okay, so this is the living room of the first floor, and I redid this floor. And there was a huge air return here, and actually when I moved in it was carpeted over, and they had put this one in. But it was just a hole. Well, actually it was a steel grate. So I filled that in with wood, and then this was the supply, and it was a hole that was carpeted over. I filled that in with wood, and redid this floor, and there was another big hole right here. As I say, it was carpeted over, and they just chewed. It's really not enough. There's another return in the lobby. So now, stand over here and I'll talk. You can see me a little bit. So there's two stories about this. One is this was rental property, and so my dad owned it, and I used to work on it with him. And we put these doors in right here. Now the thing of it is, these used to be glass doors. I'm going to come a little closer so the sound is good. You can still look at the doors if you want, I don't know. But the guy come home one night, and he was drunk. I guess it's better if you look at me. So the guy come home one night, he was drunk, and he said, I'm not staying, I just come to get some money, and I'm going to go out again. And his wife says, no, you're not. And she locked these doors. And he walked right through one of them. It was glass. It went all the way up. So my dad, we just put these on, solved the problem. And then I put this little light up here too. I put this little light up there in this space, but we had to make this because the door went all the way up. So we made this little box. These are just normal doors. So here's one other story. When I was redoing this floor, I sanded it all, and then I put some paste wood filler on it when it was raw, or was it? Yeah, it was still raw. And I smeared it on, and you were supposed to, I thought I would be able to wipe it back off after a while. And I left and came back, and the stuff was hard as a rock. I've looked to this day for a product that I could smear on wood, it would get hard as a rock, and I haven't found it. But, and I say that as hard as wood, let's put it, be more realistic. Well, so I went to I thought, well, I'll buff it off. And I went to the rental place and I got one of those buffers that's got the big round thing on a motor. And it spins around, it's like polishing a floor. And I was buffing it like this, and I was looking at the floor and I was buffing it, and it had a handle where you squeeze the handle to turn it on. And I was over here like this, looking at it, and I was looking like this, and I squeezed the handle, and it turned on, and that thing rotated right through this window, busted this window. And at that point, I said, give up. I took the machine back to the rental. I went to the park and I listened to the birds sing. And then after that, I basically had to start all over and re-sand the floor. And I didn't put any paste wood filler on it after that. So, okay, so let me talk about the stairway now. Me and Scott Landon redid the stairway. Now there used to be a closet right here, because this was a duplex. So somebody had put a closet in here when my dad had bought it. And it went all like this. It was wonderful. But it covered up the stairway. And I took the closet down, and I found these underneath here. And swivel around, look under there. And that was a stroke of luck that carpenter, when he went to build that closet, he must have felt it was a shame, so he put these under there. So I took them and I had them, they were painted. I had them stripped at a professional place. And then I had to get these too, because this was all flat. I put those on there, and I might have had to repair them still. And then we stained it, and had to sand it all, because it was all painted. Then we stained it, and like for this, take a piece of string and run that string so you get in this groove. Take a piece of string and run that string like this back and forth so you work that stain into the stain into that groove. You want to rub that stain in. You work it and rub it in, and then put the polyurethane on it. So that's, and then this is still, you can see where the closet was. I never did finish that part. They had cut that off. This used to wrap around like this. See, it went to here. It kind of went, and then you can see here it went to, this one went to there. I never did get that finished. My mother actually refinished this floor, prior to done. I made this at one time for a computer back in the old days, and I thought you could lock up and secure your computer, but of course that's silly. But here's one of the returns for the old coal furnace. Well, it's still a return. And then this floor, then the oak stops here, and it's pine. But my mother I peeled up the linoleum and was disappointed in the floor and left town, and my mother had it refinished. This out here was the back door. So the back door had a roof over it. They went ahead and put walls up, and this was my office when I was working here. So this was here's the refrigerator for the kitchen, and a kind of a pantry. And then this sink is still here. I used to have a stove here, and I put this metal so that it wouldn't get hot, so the wood wouldn't get hot. And this might be still the old, is that where the chimney was? Or was the chimney, where was the chimney? I don't remember. Maybe it'll come to me. It might have been right here, but this wood doesn't change. Or did I replace this wood? I can't remember. We can maybe figure it out when we go downstairs. Of course, I did this drop ceiling and this. Oh, I want to show you the wallpaper. Oh, we haven't talked about the bathroom. So this bathroom is really peculiar. This was a duplex. This bathroom does not belong here, but it's here. And there was doors on here, which doors are terrible. But I found these I think Sears have these. And it's plastic, but it's lasted all these years. And then I have a little lock here. It had an official lock, but it hardly doesn't work. It's got little magnets to hold it shut, and then this lock. But I was a bachelor living in here. And then it got a little tiny shower, small shower. The toilet's normal. I put this in. And this wallpaper. So this wallpaper is, oh God, we gotta take this picture. This wallpaper is, I think it's hilarious. It's got fish. Look at it right here. It's got a little fish and seaweed and shells for a bathroom. And this is the exhaust fan I was talking about. Goes up to the attic. Whoops, shut the light off on you. All right, let's move on. So now we're in the basement. As you can see, the basement steps here, and there's a door there that goes to the outside. So the big thing about this basement, and this is one of the things when I first started living here, this basement was all sandy and somebody had plastered it. It was all falling off. Well, I had learned how to do tuck pointing in Colorado, and so I brought that knowledge back here, and I dug the junk out and you press in somewhat dry concrete. And I started over here with normal color, and then as I went over here, I added, I found out you could add black pigment to it and give it a color. So the point is, this is really hard. And but it's because when it's dry and you pack it, it makes it really hard because the sand crystals pack together. So this is a limestone rock foundation. It's all done. And when I was doing it, I would put tarp on the outside, keep the rain off, because I was afraid it might cave in. So if you look on this floor, you see this circle? This is where the coal furnace used to be. And it was this big, and it's what they used to call an octopus. Because it was gravity, there was no fan. So it would get hot, and they had to have big pipes so the air would flow. And the big returns, that's why and this is where the return was for that big hole, one of the holes in the floor that I showed you. So it would have huge pipes coming down to the bottom of the furnace for the cold air to go in. And then the hot air come out, and they used to call it octopus because the pipes would come out this way, all around it. It was a round thing. And they'd go and lead upstairs. And it worked fine, except it wasted energy. So now we've got a high efficiency furnace in here. It's got the combustion air. It's got the two PVC pipes. One's for combustion air and one's for exhaust. And then these panels, I put these panels up to kind of hide it a little bit. Make it a little more nicer. This is the wash area. And it may or may not, you may or may not think it's a good idea, but that's what I did. And this indicates this is a shut-off for the upstairs. Now let's go to the garage. So I've got motion detector lights. There's 3 of them on the sides of the house, front, back, and side. And it's funny, they work after all these years. I think I may have replaced one of them. Of course, you can't see it now because it's daytime. But it works, it's amazing. Somebody walks by here, it'll turn on. And here's where the back door was, and now it's the office building. And then if you rotate, here's the garage. Now my joke on this garage is, I paid 25 cents for the plans for this garage, $10,000 for the materials. So I did this myself, which is not so fabulous, but, and then I did a step, so I did the footing, and it was inspected, and then I did a step right here, so that, because this is lower, there's a bit of a slope, so it steps like that. And I had a guy helping me, a carpenter helping me. There's one on the other side here too, see? And somebody come around one day and they said, why'd you do that step? I never seen that before. And the guy that was working for me, he says, oh, I've seen it before. They do it sometimes, he says. I don't know why it was done here, he said. So that's my... So anyway, and when I poured this thing, man, it was a lot of work and confusion. I really kind of shut it.
Okay.
So I really wasn't a concrete man. I had limited experience, particularly with building I had a lot more handyman and remodeling experience than building something. And when I went to pour this concrete, I didn't do an even depth. And in particular, although this is cracked, which surprises the heck out of me, this concrete is really deep right here. But somebody heavy drove on this, I guess, and it might not be real well compacted underneath. But when we got to here, I had a concrete man lined up. And then he said he wanted me to add calcium carbonate to speed up the process so he could do mine in the morning and do another guy in the afternoon. And I told him to take a hike. And then my friend later, he said, well, Bill, what difference does it make to you? You still get it done. And I said, because he's jerking me around. Oh, you do have it on my face?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Jeez. I said, because he's jerking me around, that's what I don't like. And he was just a laborer, not a laborer. He was a concrete man, but he wasn't like a contractor with his own company and stuff. So anyway, he was out. I did it myself with some of my helpers. And my main concern was that I would get it flat, which I did pretty good on that. But as I say, it was too deep. And so I estimated the concrete, I underestimated it. So we got to about here, this corner right here, and we ran out of concrete. And I was getting kind of flustered, and I was telling the guys, do this and do that. You got to screed it, you know, and everything. Like screeding is hard. And so anyway, I come up to the concrete truck man, and I said, it looks like I'm going to need a little more concrete. And he said, I already phoned it in. So at that point, I kind of thought, somebody's on my side, you know. And then after it was kind of all flat, I left. We went to, you know, have a beer or something, and I waited too long, and then it kind of set up, and I come in back later and smoothed this inside, and I remember I was kind of getting dark, and I was spraying water on it. My friends were spraying water on it, and so you could have a smooth surface, you know, working it. Like out here, you didn't have to do it, but in here to make it smoother, make it, I guess smoother is the right word. Anyway, it worked out. And then one other thing that was funny was, when I did this step, this foundation, I didn't properly level it. I didn't really know how to do that. And so when we went to stand up, put our level on it to stand up the walls, it wasn't level. And my friend said, well, we'll just have the top plate will just be because we'll cut all the studs the same. So the top plate will just be crooked. You'll just have to live with it. Well, I said, let me think about it. So I figured out how to do it. So what I did was I ran a string all the way around, and the string was dead level. And then I measured from the concrete to the string, and every difference was a different stud measurement. So if you know what I mean, I'm not explaining it very well, but I could calculate by having that dead level string. I could measure down from it and calculate how every stud had to be measured a little different length, so that the top plate would be level, and the top plate is level. And then I remember I put this beam in, and I said, I don't know if that's the right amount. I got 3 2x8s. I didn't want to make it too low, although it wouldn't have hurt. I remember the inspector says, well, we'll just have to see. And so that's about it, I guess. This garage, this was done. I got a permit for that electrical. And every year I have to clean out the gutters. I guess that's about it. Oh, let's do one other thing. So we got these big old trees. We've really been good. My sister helps me with the maintenance of this place. And of course my mother's money anyway. But we keep these trees. So we had this tree trimmed, and then there was a giant tree here. There was a giant tree here. You can still see where the stump was, kind of, because the grass won't grow. This thing was giant. And this guy used to complain about it, and I used to have to get out of this. I hung out of this window up here, that attic window, with a tree trimmer, and I'd trim it. That's how big it was, because to keep it away from the house. And so it's gone. And then there was a tree in the attic. I guess that's about it, huh? Did you stop it?
Uh-oh, it says 0 minutes.